top of the morning. I'm John Carrington, and I'm here with Michelle Cohen of I Dare Cruises, I Dare Travels, I Dare Travels. What is I Dare Travels?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, John. I Dare Travels is a independently operated travel agency that specializes in creating lifelong memories by taking educators and lifelong learners and adventurous travelers to Cuba.
Oh, okay. And of course, we've loosened our policies on travel to Cuba. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about your company.
Okay, well, I Dare Travels is a company that I started last year when I decided that I have a really good relationship, personal relationship with Cuba and the Cuban people, and I want to share that with fellow travelers, with fellow curious people. And so, I Dare Travels arranges all the logistics in terms of airfare and hotel stays, or even staying with Cuban families, and all the interactions and experiences we would have with artists, musicians, visiting different cities, historical sites, and takes all the worry out of getting to Cuba and makes it a personal and inspirational experience. Okay, so for the rest of 2016, I have two fabulous programs outlined. One is called Exploring the Cuban Frontier, that will be leaving in October 7th and 14th. And the second trip that I have planned for 2016 is called Hot Days and Hotter Nights, the Havana Jazz Festival 2016, and that's in December. So prior to signing a contract and booking your ticket and saying, I dare travels, we meet and discuss all the things to expect about what just getting through the airport, those basic things, and then the fun things we're going to experience once we're on the ground. And prior to meeting, we usually be at a restaurant like Cubano's restaurant in downtown Silver Springs, one of my favorite places. Next week I have a pre-travel meeting at El Golfo restaurant in Tacoma Park. So I want everyone to feel ready, because Cuba is an experience.
Okay, talk about passports, because I think it's one of the basics for any travel.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have your passport, and it shouldn't be close to expiration. You send me a PDF of your passport, and then I take care of the rest in terms of booking the charter flights and the visas and all that. Okay. So it's really very simple.
Mm-hmm. And of course, departures are from?
Either Fort Lauderdale or Miami.
All right, so tell us something about Cuban culture that we don't know.
Well, Cuba is a very vibrant, exciting place. There's fabulous people, tremendous artists, musicians, dancers. It's a very energetic place with resourceful and friendly, endearing people. And that, to me, is what we want to experience when we go to Cuba. We don't want to worry about the politics and the government relations. We want to connect with the people.
Okay. Back in the 50s, the nightclubs were very popular in Cuba. Do we have a resurgence of nightclub activity?
Dancing never took a break. Mm-hmm. There are nightclubs for everybody's taste, of all kinds. And actually, with the changes in terms of private ownerships for business for Cubans, there are a lot of new places opening up, nightclubs included, lots of new restaurants, little small businesses. So it's a very exciting place to be right now.
Yeah, I remember little snippets of what Cuba was like by watching the Lucy show. Desi Arnaz was Cuban. How much of that still exists? The Cuban flavor, the flair for dancing, the conga?
Well, the drum is the heartbeat of Cuba, in essence, because the Santeria culture, the religious Afro-Cuban culture, relies heavily on the drum for creating an experience and a beat and the music. And so the drums never disappeared, just because Desi's no longer on TV, and music is everywhere, in the street, in the nightclubs, in the hotel lobbies. You can't escape it, because that is a big part of the essence of Cuba.
Well, Lucy, Baba Louie, I mean, what was that all about?
Babalu is sort of a corruption of Baba Yao, which is a Santeria spiritual leader. So he was bringing in spirituality into the music and building and making it fun as well.
Okay. All right, so tell us about the current musical culture.
There are amazing Cuban musicians and artists performing live all the time. Agram Radio is the big radio producer and musician producer, and so he is discovering new talented musicians all the time. There's the traditional son and rumba music and salsa, but then there's rap, Cuban rap, and Cuban dance music that has a very infective beat, and you will never stop dancing if you don't want to.
I talk about the food.
Well, Cuban food is very bland, actually. They have a lot because of the fact that they can't get a lot of spices, and so I think that Cubans do not actually like spicy food. It is not typical of the Caribbean. Beans and rice, plantains, and lots of meat. We love meat.
Oh wow, this is so fascinating. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back with more of Michelle and her wonderful tours of Cuba. Welcome back, and we're here with Michelle Cohen, and we're talking about Cuba. What is the essence of the trips that you're doing?
Okay, well, I want to talk about that, John, because it's the best experience you can have. So when you travel to Cuba, you will be able to interact personally with musicians, artists, business people. There are a lot of new entrepreneurs making their way in Cuban society, and so like for example my October trip that's coming up, I'm calling it Exploring the Cuban Frontier. We're going to spend a couple days in Havana and visit some art galleries, meet with business leaders, and then head on out toward the west to Pinar del Rio and Vinales, two very beautiful cities off in the western part of Cuba, and then meet some famous artists who live out there, explore tobacco country, and sort of take on a cowboy mentality. We'll go horseback riding, and then we're going to escape off to Cayo La Vista, which is a little island off the northern coast, and spend a day and a half at an all-inclusive, turn off everything, and then head on back to Havana to decide what you finally want to buy, and then in terms of your favorite memory and experience, a little coffee perhaps, and then come back home.
All right. You mentioned the places where the people would stay, homes or hotels. Talk about those locations.
Actually, on this October trip, I'm really excited because we have a combination of all three types of accommodations. We'll stay with a Cuban family. Each guest has, their own little apartment and air conditioning, private bathroom, everything. But the opportunity to interact with a Cuban family for a day and a half or so. And then on the road, we'll be staying at a hotel. And of course, at the island, we're in an all-inclusive, so there's nothing to even think about. We come back on our return, we'll all stay at the same hotel together so that we can make sure we get on our plane, because picking people up from their different houses, we don't want anyone to be late, because the airport is a very busy place. So we have all the different types of accommodations included in this October program.
All right. Have you selected an air carrier yet, or is it pretty much flexible?
No, we'll go with the Sael Charters, and they booked this plane on one of the charter flights.
Okay, well, it's a really wonderful experience to have you here on the USS Constellation in Baltimore's beautiful Inner Harbor. I'm enjoying the sightseeing and the tourists who are walking all around enjoying their view of the waterfront from here on the Constellation. But I'm really curious, what can you add in regards to the experience of being a part of this cruise? What do you see as being a feature that we might want to take a look at this moment?
Well, John, you know what I think is the best part about traveling with me is that you get to have an up-close and personal interaction with Cuba, with the Cuban people, with Cuban culture. And so this is not a package tour. This is a personalized.
So Michelle, how did you get started in the travel business?
John, 4 years ago, I went to Cuba on my own with a group, and I literally fell in love with it. So I decided I'm going to share that experience and the inspirational energy I got out of going there with other people. And I first took tours for the Center for Cuban Studies in New York, and then I decided to incorporate, and I am now taking people on my own through iDare Travels. But I forged a relationship with Amistur and ECAP, which stands for the Institute for Friendship Among the Peoples. And these are the two socially humanitarian-based travel entities that create travel experiences for foreigners, particularly for Americans, because we have to do things in a very specific way. And for me, it's a very personal experience, and I want to help us, the United States, and help the Cuban people forge a better relationship. So for me, I feel like the best way to connect and to correct our relationship is with one person at a time. And by connecting with, getting to know the Cuban people and the Cuban culture in an up-close and personal way, we can achieve what politicians haven't been able to through 50 years of strained relations. And we can build a respectful and humanitarian relationship and connection for our two nations. And that's my goal.
What were the highlights of your tour?
So as I described with the October trip, we're going to sort of cut into new territory. We're going to find out what's going on in the emerging business world and that's why I call it exploring the Cuban frontier. We're going to meet up-and-coming business people, as well as artists and cutting-edge musicians and those sorts of people that are breaking new ground, breaking through their frontier, but at the same time going off into the actual Western frontier, just like we have our Western frontier in our history. But for December, it's all about the music. And you talked about having that connection and that memory with Desi Arnaz, and if you come with me in December, you will get more music than you ever anticipated, because the Havana Jazz Festival is the biggest jazz festival in the Caribbean, and it's a fabulous experience. American artists such as Dizzy Gillespie have performed there. Cuban artists, Chucho Valdez, have performed, And then, so there's this connection between the international jazz world and the Cuban music scene that's unforgettable. So every night, we'll be at a concert or at a venue where there's jazz music, and during the day, we'll be tootling around Havana and the outskirts, exploring different places, the Hemingway House, rum and cigar factories, which you talked to me about. And then also, we'll take a little break in there and head off to the beach, to Veradero, where the honeymooners go, and escape and come back for a little bit more music, and then we're back home in America.
Right. I believe you mentioned a wilderness experience.
The Cuban frontier trip gives us a chance to go out into tobacco country and into farm country. And so we're going to do some horseback riding and kick off our shoes and relax. And that's quite a different experience from the Jazz Festival trip, which is in December.
All right.
So you have two options right now.
What advice do you have for first-time visitors to Cuba?
The most important tip I can give is to be flexible, because in Cuba anything can happen. So you need to go with a good sense of humor and have the expectation that everything and anything wonderful is going to happen.
Oh, that was a very noble thought, that we want to bring people together. What can we do to make friendships happen?
John, you know, it's not a noble thought, but it's the right thought. We need to bridge the gap between our two countries that's been in place for far too long, and we need to build relationships. And that is a challenge that I want to take on, and I want to do it through people, because that's the way we're going to improve our relationships, one person at a time, one relationship at a time. And it might seem a little abnormal, thinking the governments are going to take care of it, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be the people between the United States and the Cubans that make this connection. And so we've got to be brave, we've got to be daring, and go forth and build a new relationship for our two countries, for the Caribbean, for the U.S. and the Northern and South America, those hemispheres. We need to be connected. And so if you travel with me, I'm going to make sure that you feel that connection on an inspirational and experiential and spiritual way that you would never have gotten through some canned package program. And so building this relationship is important to me, and I want to make that happen for the United States, for Cuba, and for you.
All right. Right now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more Top of the Morning. So don't go anywhere. Be right back. Hey, we're back, top of the morning. I'm John Carrington. I'm here with the wonderful Michelle Cohen, who's trying to bridge that gap between Cuban culture and American culture. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
John, I just want to invite you and all your viewers to take a chance, be daring, and travel with me this fall or on into next year, 2017. I've got other programs in my head and lined up, and I'll be working with my friends with the Cuban Institute of Friendship Among the People, ECAP, to develop programs that will bridge the gap between our two countries and our two cultures.
Oh, well, how can you be reached?
Oh yes, I Dare Travels. Go to the website, you can contact me directly or email me, to call me. All my information is on the website and I'm happy to talk to you.
All right, please repeat that.
I Dare Travels.
All right, well, this is John Carrington for Top of the Morning. I want to thank Michelle Cohen of I Dare Travel for being a part of the show. And hey, folks, we'll see you next time on Top of the Morning. Bye-bye.